Thank you for joining me today for another presentation about our skies. Today, we'll be talking about the human pursuit of UAPs. Now, don't you worry if you're already confused. First and foremost, I will be explaining what UAPs are. I'll also include a history of UAPs, and finally, a look at how we're currently investigating them in our skies today. So let's get right to it. Unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAPs, are those unexplainable entities we see zooming around our skies. Now, most of us will probably know them as the traditional name UFO, or for some of my more aged audience, you may typically refer to them as a flying saucer. Now, the name flying saucer actually has an interesting story behind it, which happens to be the first documented interaction with any of these objects in the sky. Let me paint a picture for you. It was a not so dark and very clear night on June 24th in 1947. An aviator by the name of Kenneth Arnold was flying a plane in Washington in search of a recent military plane crash in the area. Now, during his flight, he noticed 9 flashes of light catch his eye, performing advanced aerial maneuvers. Their movements resembled those of rocks being skipped across the water throughout the sky, and were incredibly fast. Now, the speed of these lights is actually what shocked Arnold. He observed the aircrafts fly from Mount Rainier to Mount Adams in 1 minute and 42 seconds. This paced those lights at moving about 1,700 miles per hour, which was over 3 times the speed that any aircraft at the time was capable of. Now, what does this story have anything to do with the flying saucer nomenclature? Well, that next day, Arnold was flooded with interviews from reporters where he was frequently misquoted with headlines that read "flying saucers seen by pilot in Washington," despite the fact that Arnold never mentioned that the objects resembled anything like a saucer. Now, the news spread like wildfire, and soon flying saucers were being published in comics around North America. This propagated the number of sightings around the continent to go through the roof, and called for the US government to become involved to investigate these so-called flying saucers. There were many different investigations carried out by government in the research of these unexplained sightings. 1 year after Arnold's experience, in 1948, there was the first government investigation named Project Sign. Project Sign was quickly replaced by Project Grudge for the majority of 1949, as it was officially ended in December of that year. However, the project did continue to be worked on minimally until mid-1951. After Project Grudge had completely died off, the largest US government investigation into UAPs to date commenced. Project Blue Book. Project Blue Book collected over 12,000 documented UAP-related events from 1952 to 1969. Each event was eventually classified as either identified, meaning it was an explained situation, or unidentified, which was the official way of saying we have no idea what the heck that was. Unidentified was the classification of about 6% of the Blue Book cases. Now, as if the idea of aliens in our skies was not enough to drive the public's interest through the roof, the findings of Project Blue Book were kept classified publicly until 1979. The government basically was like, hey guys, we're doing tons of research into this alien stuff and found a lot of information, but we can't tell you anything, so just carry on. This was obviously a source of a lot of distrust and skepticism at the time towards the US government in regards to anything UAP related. Fortunately, a small group of scientists who participated on the government-run projects believed that a few of these cases had strong evidence of alien activity. So these scientists formed the Center for UFO Studies, which is a non-profit that is still active in Chicago today. The next major investigation program from the US government was the Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program, or AATIP, which was run from 2007 to 2012. Now, in typical US government fashion, this program was completely top secret and wasn't even announced to the public until 2017. But what's extremely interesting is that the public records incredibly mention that the government possessed unidentifiable material obtained from UFOs that they were currently testing. Now, all this borderline conspiracy and testing potentially alien material brings us up to speed to present day. Now, if it was my guess, I would probably think that in 2022, with all the issues going around in the world, we probably wouldn't have time for the government to invest time or money into investigating aliens. That would be a pretty bad guess. In fact, in June 2021, the US military issued a new report on all UAP activity over the last year. This actually led Congress urging the creation of a new office in the Pentagon to analyze and report on new UAP data. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand can be quoted saying, "Our national security efforts rely on aerial supremacy, and these phenomena present a challenge to our dominance over the air. Staying ahead of UAP sightings is critical to keeping our strategic edge and keeping our nation safe." Now, this quote's context can be taken while Senator Kirsten Gillibrand was adding an amendment to the $768.2 billion National Defense Fund for that year. With this new office active, and along with other active nonprofit organizations, there has been a large demand created for UAP tracking hardware. Now, widely spread UAP tracking hardware would make a tangible shift in UAP tracking, where we would be able to rely primarily on actual data instead of personal stories. Today's UAP industry is divided between two approaches to investigating our skies. The first larger portion of industry wants to create a joint effort with standardized equipment around the continent. Now, the UFO Data Acquisition Project is currently working on a standardized piece of hardware to collect data, which is reasonably priced between $2,000 and $5,000 US. This can be implemented by a variety of different organizations to collectively monitor our skies for activity. The other portion of industry believes that it would be most beneficial to allow all parties to investigate different methods and procedures to monitor UAPs before standardizing anything in any form. Now, I'm no UAP, UFO, or flying saucer fanatic or expert, but I think it always makes the most sense for us to find the most efficient way to do something before widely adopting a method throughout the industry. Let me know which one you think makes the most sense down below in the comments. If you'd like to see a full documented history of UAP activity, the only country that has one is actually Canada. I've included a link to the Canadian Libraries and Archives where you can take a look in the description. Please don't hesitate to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.